Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Lions Grid. Of course, today we will be talking about the loss that happened yesterday. 13-20, the final score there. The Detroit Lions losing to the Chicago Bears. We'll be touching on that today, talking about what it means for the Lions season moving forward. And I guess let's jump right in. Overall, it was a rough game. I think the cure for a struggling team is to play the Detroit Lions defense. Trubisky throwing for 3 touchdown passes, getting a little bit back on track there. Of course, Chicago's offense hasn't looked very good. They're able to take advantage of that Lions defense. And, overall, obviously the big news heading into the game was Matt Stafford not being available for the Lions. Jeff Driscoll filled in, and he didn't play bad. I don't think Jeff Driscoll is the person you put this loss on. I don't think he was the main reason for it. Certainly, I don't think he had. He didn't play as well as Matt Stafford has this season, because Stafford's been playing some of the best football of his career. But I don't think Driscoll was the weak point. He did have the one interception, but you're playing the Bears defense. Chances are you might have a turnover or two. I think the thing that's still disappointing, we're now into week 10, and our leading rusher this game for the Lions was Jeff Driscoll, 5 carries for 37 yards there, led the team in rushing yards. They finished with 98 total rushing yards. Ty Johnson left the game, and I think if we take a step back, one of the big things now for the Lions here moving forward is the amount of injuries they have. Obviously, the injury to Stafford that kept him out of the game, kind of a big deal. But even beyond that, there's a number of players that were banged up, that had to sit out at different points during the game or left the game with injury, and they're really accumulating. We talked about it earlier this season when the Lions had the bye week before their Monday Night Football game against the Packers. The nice thing was they got a chance to get healthy before that big Monday night matchup with the Packers. The downside was that they were going to then have to play the rest of those games without a break all the way through, and the injuries, the injury gods have not been kind to the Lions. There's a ton of people playing banged up, from Darius Slay to Mike Daniels. I think the only 2 healthy defensive linemen for the Lions in this game were Trey Flowers and John Atkins. Everybody else, Deshaun Hand, Ashawn Robinson didn't even play. Everyone else is getting beat up. So there's so much going on, so many injuries. It's taking its toll. Obviously, not having Stafford in, it was rough. And we talked about coming into this game, a need for the Lions to win 7 of their next 8 games to reach that magical 10-game mark. Now they drop to 3-5-1 on the season, and they have to win 7 of their next 7 to reach that magical 10-game mark. And again, 10 isn't a hard number, but I think it's the number that realistically you want to hit if you want to feel comfortable about your chances making it to the playoffs. What does that mean for the Lions moving forward? It means that unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be seeing them in the postseason. They have a potential here, I think, to be a chance to play spoiler from some teams. Taking a look at who they have left on the schedule, this upcoming week is a great example because they'll be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who of course are trying to hold off the Eagles and win that NFC East. They're coming off that loss on Sunday Night Football to the Minnesota Vikings. So, maybe the Lions can play spoiler. They do play the Vikings again later this season. Of course, they'll be playing the Bears again. They have another game against the Bears and the Packers. But, as we sort of talked about, me and Joe have been talking about throughout the season, the important thing is taking care of business inside of the division. And here through the first round robin of their season, taking on the Vikings, the Bears, and the Packers for the first time, they're 0-3. So that's not taking care of business. That's so far, we didn't really have huge high expectations of the Lions coming into the season. I think I was picking them to go 8-8. I think Joe had them going 6-10. And they showed us some things early on that gave us hope. They beat the Eagles, played tough games against the Chiefs and the Packers, and were right there. A couple of things going different ways and executing on some plays, they could have got wins in those. And so there for a moment, there was a lot of hype about the Lions, even though coming into the season we didn't really have it. And now here, after this loss to the Bears, the Lions currently sitting in 4th place in the NFC North. It's kind of deflating, right? Because we're kind of stuck now in a weird sort of limbo where I don't know what would be best for this team. This is Bob Quinn's 3rd season. We're like over 1.5 seasons now for Matt Patricia as the head coach. It's hard to say if this tandem pairing of the general manager and the coach, if their regime is going to end up being positive, could they conceivably be let go at the end of the season? I think certainly that's a case. I don't think it's like a super hot seat, but at the same time, especially if for some reason they were to not win another game this season, certainly could help lead to that happening. But it's hard. It's like I said, you're stuck in that sort of purgatory state where do you give these two guys, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, another season to see if their vision for what the Detroit Lions can be, if they can make that happen? Or do you say, screw it, blow it up, and start back over at square one? I don't know which one of those is better. Because, so far what we've seen from the results on the field with this Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn team, yes, there have been some games where they've looked good against really good teams, and then they've definitely missed out on some opportunities. That tie in Week 1 against the Cardinals, a game they should have won. Losing to the Raiders, losing to the Bears team here today, of course, or yesterday, but not having Stafford certainly impacted that. But still, the Bears, their offense is horrible, and it's really hard to say what the right course of action is, because I don't know if suddenly this team is going to click and their vision is going to come together and they're just going to start winning games consistently. I don't know if that's going to happen. So if these guys can't get that team and bring that whole vision together, I think you would be better off going with a different direction. But then if you go with a different direction, it's going to take time for them to get their stuff up and running. So it's kind of a lose-lose, I think, for Lions fans. I guess you can give Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn another year, but I wouldn't necessarily have high expectations of them at that point. But I mean, is it better than, bringing in the unknown? I don't know. We sort of, like I said, I haven't been a huge fan of what I've seen here so far. So maybe, at least with the unknown, there's a chance that you might like that a little better. But it's kind of it's a tough spot. And as mentioned, taking a look at the Lions, the rest of their season, the schedule here, they're taking on the Cowboys this week. The following week, they're headed out to Washington to play the Redskins. Then on Thanksgiving, they're hosting the Bears for their second game there. Then they're traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, hosting Tampa. Then they have going out to Mile High to take on the Broncos, which originally I was giving them as a game to win, but it's never easy to go to Mile High, and certainly having the young quarterback there for the Broncos instead of Joe Flacco. I know his last name's Allen. I'm spacing on his first name, but he definitely seemed to play well in his first bit of action, so seemed to energize the team around him. I don't think that game's a gimme anymore, and then, of course, they end the season at home hosting the Packers. It's tough. They got to win. Like I said, to hit that magical 10 number, they'd have to win 7 of them. To even hit 9 wins, they got to win 6 of 7. So it's a tough road ahead of the Lions. And I don't know. What I've seen out of the last couple of weeks doesn't make me think that they're going to have a whole lot of success. Obviously, having Stafford behind center, having him healthy, and who knows? I find it hard to believe that, and of course, there's this current situation with them mishandling his injury report that the NFL is looking into. But I kind of find it hard to believe that he wasn't able to be medically cleared to play in this Sunday's game and then is suddenly going to be medically cleared to play next week against the Cowboys. He was dealing with, I guess, the back fractures last season and was able to play and all that good stuff, but in this case wasn't even medically cleared to play. Certainly a little concerned about what his availability is going to be moving forward, and I don't know. It's uncertain times for this team. We didn't really have a ton of expectations, but in true Lions fashion, they sort of built your hopes up, and now they're sort of dashing them out, and now it's just a bunch of uncertainty, and I don't have the answers. I don't think anyone does have the answers when it comes to this team. Unfortunately, it may be another one of those years where we're just looking forward to an off season where hopefully we can do some things, because it is a tough road to the postseason now for the Lions, one in which they're going to need help. Other teams are going to need to struggle to even make it a possibility, and I can't in good conscience sit here and say that it's going to happen. Just being realistic about it. I'm not hating on the Lions too much here, but they've made it tough. So we'll have to see what they can do, but doesn't look good. It's a little bit of a downer episode here to kick off the week, but when you have another loss, what the Lions are on let me double check here. They're on a 2-game losing streak. It happens. Teams are starting to separate themselves. Of course, the Packers 8-2, and we'll talk about this more when we do our Kings in the North episode tomorrow. But Packers at 8-2, Vikings at 7-3. Then you got the Lions all the way down there in fourth place at 3-5-1. That's a lot of ground to have to make up, and the number of weeks left in the season are going down. So it's hard to be optimistic. Just what it is. But that will do it for today's show. If you did enjoy the show, please do help the channel grow. Hit that like button, and if you haven't done so yet, please do consider subscribing to the channel. We have a goal of reaching 100 subscribers so we can unlock the custom URL for the channel. Making good progress there, but still need some help. So if you haven't done so, please do subscribe. Like I said, we'll be back again tomorrow night to do the Kings in the North episode, where we'll break down the current NFC North standings heading here into Week 11. And until then, I'm Kevin Marheine. This has been the Lions Grid. We'll catch you during the next episode. Peace.